Hi folks, Tom from New Zealand here. Part 5 of how to get an academic job. Not end up like this guy. So this section, and this is really the most tricky one for candidates and for me, is responding to selection criteria. It's hard to do, and it's also kind of hard to talk about because a lot of times the selection criteria are kind of like pretty abstract. But what I'm going to do is going to take you through a bunch of standard criteria, which you shouldn't see as like in stone, but like kind of more conceptually standard. And basically, there's two kind of criteria. There's essential criteria that you must have, and desirable criteria, which would be nice if you had. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the style that you should approach these with, and the approach that you should approach these with. Got to come up with a better word there. So, when you're reading selection criteria for a job, you got to really hone in on the words they're using. Like you're some kind of Year 12 English student about to write an essay, and break them into parts, and think about how they relate. Why these things are important to the people who want to know about me, and what can you read from those things about what kind of colleague they want. So here's some examples of standard essential criteria. Right, kind of obvious, right? A PhD or other qualification in discipline X or a closely related field. Demonstrate expertise in and capacity to teach subtopic X at undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Demonstrate expertise in and capacity to teach at least one and preferably more than one of the following undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Then 3 topics. A track record in research and publication commensurate with the position. Right, so let's go back to those real quick, right? These are all like ones that I've culled from various entry-level positions in the last year or so when I've been putting together these PowerPoint slides. So these are all level B candidate teaching and learning selection criteria from Australian universities. So you see the second one, like first one, right? Well, you got a PhD or you don't. But do you? You know, like maybe you're going to get it at a certain time, or you're going to submit it at a certain time, etc. So, you know, like there's some gray area there. And also, like, plenty of people in the past have got jobs saying they had to have a PhD for them, but they didn't because they promised to have a PhD done by a certain time, etc. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily put you out of the running if you're a candidate, still a PhD candidate, but you are nearing completion and your referees can empirically, scientifically say, yes, you're about to submit, and of course you're going to do very well. So the second one is demonstrated expertise in and capacity to teach, right? So you're expert in a topic and you have the capacity to teach it. So you have to show that you're expert because you've got to demonstrate it, but you've also, all you have to do is claim that somehow you have the capacity to teach it. You don't have to have the experience in teaching. It doesn't say experience in teaching, it says capacity to teach. See, the second one is also the same. It says just capacity to teach. So, you know, like, you aren't being asked to show that you have taught that. You don't have to have teaching experience. You just have to have a capacity to teach, which could be argued that you have that because of your, you know, demonstrated experience and maybe your little bit of experience in teaching. Track record in research and publication, again, that needs to be a bit more tangible. But a note, it's commensurate with the position. So they aren't asking for anything heaps, it's entry-level position. Maybe 1 or 2 articles would be fine, right? So here's some more. Demonstrated ability to supervise honors and higher degree research students. So that's a tough one. You've got to demonstrate your ability. But you don't have to have a track record of it. You don't have to have completed any. You just need to demonstrate that you have the ability to do that, right? You start to see how if you sort of like take these things a bit too literally, without like really thinking about what they're asking for, how it can be very off-putting, and you might not ever put in a job application until you've got 10 years experience. Capacity to contribute to flexible teaching and delivery of so-and-so, right? You know how to turn on computers. Have you used the LMS before? You know, like tell a good story. Ability to undertake relevant curriculum development. So you have the ability to create new materials, new curriculum. Okay, like I think probably you're fucked if you can't write a new lecture or come up with a new lecture topic or come up with a new tutorial exercise or whatever. I mean, yeah, you know, like what are you doing here? You've got that ability. Demonstrated ability to undertake unit coordination and school administrative duties. So that's different. You've got to demonstrate that you have the ability, not just have the ability. So like you might not have, it's more like they want you to show that you've done something at a similar level or even done that thing before. But it's not you've done it before. That's not what they're asking. That's not the minimum of what they're asking. Of course, it's better to have done it before, but that's not what the selection criteria is. You see what I'm saying, I hope. Capacity to engage with other research teaching programs within the school. So, you know, like you can engage with things. You can like talk to people who aren't doing exactly the same thing as you are. Sound like a great colleague already. Demonstrated experience of working with others in a team teaching environment. So that's, again, tricky, right? You've got to have shown that you've got experience of working with others in a team teaching environment. But, hey, like, if you're teaching in a subject where you're the tutor and there's more than just one tutor that's you've done team teaching. Demonstrated ability to work collaboratively in research teams and proven ability to work independently with minimal supervision. Right? So you're collaborative and you're independent, right? You know, like this is where you start to see sometimes the criteria start to get like kind of multi-points. There's like sub-points within them, and you might want to think really carefully about how you articulate that one. So you have like one paragraph which addresses the first part about working collaboratively in a research team, and then another one that's about working independently. You know what I mean? So it's really clear to people that you can do both. Oral communication skills, including presenting research findings in seminars and conferences. I prefer verbal, personally, when I'm talking about this kind of thing. But, you know, like some people don't have dirty minds. But this kind of thing should be pretty standard. Like, you can demonstrate oral communication skills by just saying, I have presented at X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 over the course of my, etc. Demonstrated capacity to apply for an external competitive research funding. So again, it's asking you to demonstrate a capacity to, not have done it before. Demonstrated ability to communicate effectively and work productively as a team member. So I'd like maybe, that's another two-part one. You know, maybe they only want to have eight selection criteria, so they kind of crumple two together. A willingness to participate in annual performance planning and review. So when you see one like that, you know, holy fuck. Like, a lot of the people that already work there aren't willing to participate in the review, and the new head of school's like, fuck up, I need to make sure that they've agreed to do it before they even come in on the job level. So, you know, you start to see some weird stuff, and it's probably not a super big deal. You just say yes, but that's like, you know, yes, I welcome that. I see annual performance review as a essential part of my career development, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that that's a question is kind of like a little bit of a red light about the kind of environment that you might be working in, where people are like, yeah, who the fuck are you to tell me about what I should be doing in my review? I guess. Oh, and commitment to EEO and OH&S principles as they relate to this position. So, yeah, you know, like, yes, I agree to not wear sandals in the laboratory, and I don't know what else might be occupational health and safety principles, but like, you know, sitting properly at your desk nicely and having 5-minute breaks and all that kind of stuff. It's not an elaborate one. It's just you kind of agreeing. And what you'll see when you start to like look at a lot of selection criteria is there are occasionally a few selection criteria where they have these weird ones where basically the answer is yes, I agree to do that thing. Your proven ability, commitment, and passion for engaging in research activities in a multidisciplinary environment. So, you know, like you look in there and you're like, whoa, passion, man. I'm from New Zealand. I'm passionate about rugby, man. But, you know, like I'm not passionate about things like that. I kind of have concerns and interests. I find that question basically racist. But, you know, like you got to pretend that you got some kind of passion for things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, every time I think about video games, my bodice breaks or pops or something like that. Weird one. But anyway, passion is this thing that we're supposed to have now in this kind of global world where affect and etc. is like a super important part of our jobs. So be thinking about how you can demonstrate your passion for engaging in research activities in a multidisciplinary environment is probably relatively challenging, but that's a kind of real hard level question. Your ability, commitment, and passion for engaging in research activities in a multidisciplinary environment. So, yeah, I'm talking, this is like the real next level hardness there. Whoa, look at this one. Ability to develop innovative approaches to course delivery and student-centered learning that successfully exploits new technologies with commitment to continuous quality improvement through ongoing training and development. Yes. Like, this is like, you know, one of my faves, right? As long as I'm exploiting things, I'm really happy. Especially exploiting students. Exploiting new technologies, actually. But we've got innovative approaches. We've got the ability to develop innovative approaches to course delivery and student-centered learning that exploit new technologies, but we also have a commitment to continuous quality improvement through ongoing training and development. So, like, I guess you talk about your different kinds of training and how you would continue to develop and train yourself and reflect on teaching and gather data and etc., etc. Horrible. I mean, if I saw that one, I would probably not apply for the job. But, like, I'm in a position of relative privilege, and also, like, I guess the people who are asking that question probably don't really know the answer to it. But as long as what you say sounds pretty obvious onto it and not kind of made up, then they're probably fine with it. Oh, sound knowledge of computers and standard software packages, e.g. Microsoft Office Suite. Do you know how to use Microsoft Office Suite? Like, we really only want you to be able to like use Word and like, you know, Adobe. We want you to be able to read PDFs. But that's a super big deal because a lot of the people who work here can't do it, and you're going to be the go-to person if you can do that. So that's again like, you don't need to have a big long list of, yes, well, spreadsheets this, Adobe that, Adobe this. You're just like, yeah, man, sure. I'm a human being from 2016. I know how to use this shit. You know, like, what? But you can just bet that they've got some old as fuck professors in their department still that have to like call people into their offices to open attachments. That's the kind of thing that they don't want there. More of. Okay, so some standard desirable criteria. These are things which might set you aside from the other people that have already also made the, you know, necessary criteria. So, relevant professional industry experience in the discipline, right? So, in that case, when you see that kind of thing, you should maybe add a section to your CV about your industry experience, which is relevant as well. Experience in online curriculum development. Hey, you ever used an LMS before? Experience in preparing research proposal submissions to external funding bodies for projects relevant to position. So you see that some people's desirable criteria will be other people's essential criteria. Involvement in professional activity. So, you know, like, are you doing something in the discipline, like, you know, editing a journal or organizing a conference or whatever? They're like into that. Experience in collaborative industry projects, etc. So, like, probably all of that stuff about selection criteria is pretty much Well, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff, and you guys are gonna look at a lot of different selection criteria over the time as you like decide what jobs you're applying for and how you're going to apply for them and stuff like that. But the really important thing is keep all of your selection criteria responses to every job that you apply for, because the first few times you make them, it'll take like maybe more than a day to do them all together. Like maybe it's like 75% of the time is taken up with that, like in your 2 or 3 day process. But by the time you've done like 5 or 6, you'll actually have like pretty good answers to most questions which can pop up, and you'll just have to tailor them and rewrite them to add your new achievements each time you apply for a job. So, right, back to selection criteria now. Like a lot of people kind of go like, how long should my selection criteria response be? Now, for a lot of them, like a paragraph will suffice, but others, I think you can go over that to really as long as you want to, without like bullshitting and waffling on. As long as like everything that you're showing them is like A grade, well written material that really explains what you're going to do and what you're going to give them and why you want to be there, that's all good. If you're just like making shit up, like that's, like end it and stick to the facts. But you can go up to say about a page in each, but the key criteria that cover teaching and research, where you might have to outline a kind of like course that you want to teach, or like a research plan, you can go over 1 page easily, and that's fine. That's really what people want to look at. Some criteria again might just be able to be dealt with a sentence or a word even. Look carefully at the wording, like I've explained, like what exactly are they asking for and what exactly do they want you to be able to claim. Right? Do you have the capacity to do something? Do you have experience in it? Do you have to demonstrate it? Etc. Right? Like, make sure that you are in touch with the logic of the question and how it's constructed. If it's a multiple part question, think about like breaking it up into parts really carefully instead of just like kind of one big paragraph dealing with the whole thing. Especially if it's a big mess like that one about continuous improvement of teaching quality that I mentioned a moment ago. And also remember what we talked about last week in the cover letter, the sloganomics, to really understand how the institution wants to present itself and to use that language to talk about yourself in a meaningful way. Not to just drop them like they're like buzzwords, but to think about how what you do relates to those things. In what way is your teaching style blended? In what way are you using research-led teaching, etc.? How is this a tool for you? Right? So, now to this issue of the approach. So sort of like how to write these things. Now, this is like probably the hardest part for me to kind of like think about and explain. And so I'm going to do my best here and just go for it, right? So the main thing here is that you've got a CV already, right? And it's a list of your achievements. And they've asked for this question about, please describe, please demonstrate your capacity or whatever, your thing or that. And you're looking at your CV and you're like, what are the things in my CV which are the things which show that? But you don't just like list them off, you narrativize them, right? You have to tell them a story, right? So like at the moment, corporations, as well as like being obsessed with data, right? They're obsessed with storytelling. They're obsessed with people using that data to tell a story, to like explain it, to kind of make it relatable. So this is what your job is in the selection criteria, is to turn this kind of cold selection criteria category and this boring like minor achievement that you have into like a kind of a story about you as an individual that shows that you're a cool person, you're not a jerk, and that you're kind of ethical, responsible, intelligent, etc. So look at the kind of things they're asking you to do, and think about the actions they're interested in, and think about, if you don't have direct experience in that thing, what you've done that's like transferable to that kind of thing, and explain that transfer in an intelligent, nuanced way. And like, think of yourself as a person that has accomplishments and skills, rather than kind of like boring, didactic duties and responsibilities, right? So turn things around into kind of positive things which you have now acquired as skills, rather than duties which are associated with the performance of a particular job or task. And then talk about what kind of impact you have had in that area, like in the sense of, can you quantify that if possible? So for example, if you're talking about teaching, like bust out some of your mad teaching stats from student feedback. And if you're if you're talking about your research, bust out some of your your social media info about your alt metrics for that piece, or if it's been cited, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that is a common kind of easy mistake to make is to think like what you should do in the selection criteria is talk about what you've done that's relevant to that particular question. You also need to give them an idea about what you would do in that area in the future if you got the position, so that you're showing them that, hey, I'm a person that has my own ideas and I've got my own plan, and of course, while it's related to your plan and I'll listen to you, and I'm not some kind of like maniac that doesn't pay attention to what everyone else is doing, but at the same time, I don't need to be told what to do. Like, I'm an actor in terms of making actions. I'm not going to sit around and people are going to be like, oh, hey, Tom would really like you to put together a research plan so that we know what you're doing over the next 3 years. You've got your own thing going on. You don't need that kind of basic mentorship. Okay, thank you.